guys, I'm gonna make some pants today because having a corset slash stays but nothing to wear it with is a little depressing, so I better get building an outfit around this. I have taken inspiration from a fashion plate that I've seen that is 1830s. It does seem a little swankier than most, so I would say that this would either be like later in the decade, maybe, or just for a fancier person. Yeah. So I'm really excited. I am not going to follow anything other than just the image that I've seen. And we're just going to try our best to recreate it as best we can. I feel like this has probably got the right spirit of historical accuracy without the methodology of historical accuracy. I think people probably would have just seen someone wearing a thing and gone, oh, I want that thing. Or seen a fashion plate, like I have, and make that thing. They're trousers that I'm going to make. And they sort of only just came into fashion. Before this, there were breeches, which sort of were a shorter, knee-length kind of thing. But they were the same kind of pattern from what I can gather. So I'm going to make a pair of 1830s inspired trousers. Come and join me for the ride. This time I've actually bought some wool. I figured buying some wool would not be the worst thing in the world because I feel these pants are going to get quite a lot of use. I'm very excited to be working with this wool, but I'm not happy. It's got a houndstooth pattern that is very light and small that I'm not thrilled with because I haven't seen any pants of the era that have a houndstooth pattern, but nevertheless, it's pretty good. The colour's really nice and it feels really nice to touch. It's not too itchy. So I've just traced out all of my patterns onto the wool and now I'm going to cut them out. Well, I haven't actually traced all of them. I've just traced the two leg patterns. You might have noticed that on the legs there is one side that is fairly straight down and one side that's fairly lumpy going down. Now, this apparently is very important. I made a mock-up of these pants and they twirled around like a candy cane. And I couldn't quite figure why, and then I redid my patterns with a straight side facing the side seam of the pants, and it didn't fix it entirely, but it got much better. Alright, now I am sewing the tops together. Now just sewing the crotch seam of the front of the pants together and the crotch seam of the back pants together. I did make a mistake in the pattern. I had intended for this extra square that you're seeing to be at the middle of the back panels, but the way that I cut it, it was on the outside, so I had to cut it off and sew it back on. That little panel is going to come in handy later when we're making our fastening. Alright, now I'm sewing the entire outside seam. This is also important that the outside seam comes first. The outside seams of the front and the back, bringing them together, and then I'm going to sew the inner seams, starting at the crotch point so that all of our pieces meet beautifully at a cross in the middle, and then come all the way down to your ankles. I have left on the outer seam about a hand's length of the seam open. This is where we're going to add our button fasteners later because these pants are gonna be tight. You can't have them just pulled on like normal trousers. You need those buttons down the bottom, otherwise they are not going to come on. Now what I've done is I've put them on inside out and I'm just pulling in any extra fabric on both the inner and the outer seams, trying to, again, keep them nice and straight You don't want them to candy cane twist around your body. Okay, now for the waistband. This part is the best part of the pants for me. That drop fly and the waistband with the buttons all the way up is what really brings happiness to my heart on the aesthetics of these pants. So you need to cut out 2 of this shape, which is a very interesting shape, and then fold them in half into this shape. Alright, with the fold wrong sides together, not that this wool has a wrong side, but your material may. Wrong sides together, so all the way down that long midpoint seam and around this circle here. Don't sew along the opposite side to the fold or the shorter end. We need those open to attach them to the pants, and in fact that little end of these is the very last thing that we sew together in the whole project. That long side, however, we do not. Tucking the circle of your waistband into the front seam, making sure there's a bit of overlap for where you're going to put in the buttons between the 2 pieces that we've just sewn together. Once they've got a nice gap, sew that along the top front of your trousers. There should be a big gap at the back, it's okay, don't worry about it. It's time to play a really dangerous game where we're going to create our drop fly. I've chosen to curve my cut here just to give it a little bit more interest. It was probably fairly traditionally just a straight cut down, but I have seen examples of trousers like this, so I'm going to do this one because I think it looks nice. And here's how it should all look! Woohoo! Next up, we're just going to add an extra rectangle of fabric on top of our button fly we've just done, so we can put a big old button on that. Making sure that it's got a fair bit of size on it, but it shouldn't come and meet the top of the waistband. Okay, just to help attach this, I've ironed my seam allowances flat on both the sides, and I'm going to iron it flat in the middle as well. This is just going to make everything a lot easier for when you're attaching this piece. Using our beautifully ironed seams to our advantage, it should be really easy to sew this straight on. Now, it doesn't matter that the seams on the actual drop fly part are still raw. These will be covered, so don't stress about them. You don't need to hem them or anything. I did, however, hem the outside of the drop fly to emulate the shape of the circle piece that is underneath. This is just going to give us the little pattern later and a nice circle there now. Take a strip of spare fabric and make it real skinny by folding it over itself as many times as you possibly can. Laying that strip on top of your fabric, select a buttonhole stitch length with the widest stitch that you possibly can on a zigzag stitch. And this will give you some nice threads going over each side of the piece of fabric that you're putting down, and the fabric will give it this like nice lumpy texture. It's really nice. Twist and turn that piece of fabric into your own unique, beautiful, wonderful design if you want, or there are some historical embroidery designs that you can choose from too. On the original set of pants, I've tried to copy as much as I possibly could an original image from a fashion plate at the time. However, this time I'm trying something perhaps a bit more modern. Make sure you go over it a fair few times until you're happy, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We're all amateurs here. Well, you might not be, but I am. And it should look really, really great.
They see me rolling, they hate it.
Yeah, well, that happened. Anyway, buttons. I'm really excited about this because I figured out the laziest way to apply a button in the entire world. You choose a zigzag stitch, you put that length on 0, and then you line up the button holes with your stitch width, and you can just put your foot down and then you got a button on there. It's amazing. Okay, so what you're seeing here is I'm going to add some pull fasteners at the back of my trousers, and I am making them really, really strong with this ribbon that I found at an op shop, and I'm pinning them equal distance, but I am pinning them on a slight different length distribution, and that's because I don't want them to sit flat around my waist. I want them to curve down as I pull them and connect to the front of my hips. It'll make more sense when you can actually see them in action. But anyway, I cut out all of these little arrows of fabric, pinned them on, sewed the fronts of those shut, flipped them inside out, curved the back hems around, and sewed around the point. For the buttonholes, I've just used the buttonhole foot in my machine. It's really easy. I know it's not historically accurate, but it just saved a lot of time with this project, and you can't really see the buttonholes in this one anyway. I promise I'll be less lazy in future. Remember that seam I said would be last? Well, it's time. Taking your ribbons and lining them up inside the mouth of that seam, turning over the edges so it's got a nice hem. Make sure that your ribbons are evenly spaced within the mouth, as well as that other rectangle that should be hanging loose on the center back of your pants. So I've just finished putting on the last button, and I want to show you guys something. Apparently, I bought just the right amount of thread. Oh, so satisfying. No waste. No extra weird coloured thread. I'm happy. Okay, remember how I mentioned breeches at the start, the predecessor to the trouser? Well, I wanted a pair. So... Yes, that's right. If you've made it to this point, you now know I own not just one, but two kinda historical pairs of pants. I had a lot of fun making this project. It was incredible, like, to just look at a thing and then try and make it. I would recommend. No patterns, apart from the ones that I made myself. No measurements from anyone else, just look at the thing, make the thing. It's pretty fun. As you can see, I've upped my cravat game. Thank you. Also, that shot with the buttons kind of hurt and wasn't worth it at all. This waistcoat is not historically accurate, but I have a feeling there might be one coming. I don't know, just maybe. So stick around for that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here for video number 2. I'm gonna have a full outfit soon. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. All right, my head's about to fall off, so I'll see you later.